Well, Happy New Year viewers, Brandy Bongos here, and welcome back to A Walk to Work with Whittaker. Although, of course, it is the 2nd of January here in Australia, I am not walking to work, I am walking to the gym. Now, I'm sure I'm going to get questions about this, so the mask, which is slipping off my nose because I'm talking, the mask is from Clayton Hickman's Redbubble store. Look both ways. If you would like to pick up one of these round things masks. He's got lots of other round things, and for copyright reasons I have to say no idea where he got the idea from. There's an ice cream truck. You do not see them around much anymore. So, Revolution of the Daleks. Across the road. Let's start with the positives, shall we? I love the look of the episode. Sometimes the cinematography in Series 12 could be a bit muddy, a bit subdued. This was anything but that. I also enjoyed the longer episode length. Felt like there was better pacing. I think some people up ahead of me have spotted the ice cream truck. No, right behind me. Okay. They're going slowly. I think you'll catch them. This is all staying in. Anyway, yes, love the cinematography and the look, especially that shot at the end with all the Daleks flying into the TARDIS. That looked so amazing. Really liked the action for Yaz, Jack, and Ryan. I felt that Graham was kind of a bit of a spare part, which is a bit of a pity considering this is his last episode along with Ryan. And Jodie, as always, impressed me as the Doctor. Chris Noth was really good. The woman playing the Prime Minister, whose name unfortunately I don't know off the top of my head, but she was excellent. And I'm actually kind of sorry to see her go because yeah, I would have loved to see her again in a few more episodes. I mean, Chris Noth got off scot-free again, so why not her, eh? As for the plot itself, I thought it was really reliable, really Dalek-y in the plan. Like, this mutant has just been biding its time and sort of using Jack Robertson's corporate deniability against him. Because the whole thing with Jack Robertson is he sort of funnels things away so he doesn't know about the bad stuff. And the Dalek basically makes use of that because Jack's not going to check whether he's got a factory in Osaka. He knows nothing about it. And the Dalek would know that as well. Daleks are at their best when they turn their enemies' weaknesses against them. My favourite Dalek story ever, Power of the Daleks. That's exactly what the Daleks do to humanity, and that's what they do here as well. Something I found very strong about this episode as well was the subtlety. I thought it was a lot subtler than a lot of Chris Chibnall's other writing, especially with the Daleks being law enforcement and turning on the people they're meant to protect, which is very cogent in the time we're living in now. And we're not beaten over the head with it, as we can quite often be with Chris Chibnall's writing. So I was glad to see that point, I think, is effectively made. And, you know, we're certainly not on the side of the Daleks, one would hope. And so it's designed to provoke thought in the audience without overemphasizing the point. Now, that being said, some of the dialogue, oh my goodness. Chris Chibnall has a problem with overwriting. And what I mean by that, to give you an example, is the moment where Jo and Jack Robertson are talking about where the Dalek came from. And instead of her just saying, if anyone knows that I gave you this technology, we'll be in trouble, she says, if anyone knows I gave you this technology after we hijacked it from being picked up from the GCHQ a year ago, on this date, on this motorway. It's just too much. Chris Chibnall doesn't leave things to the audience's imagination. And I think he thinks because children need to understand Doctor Who, that he needs to spell everything out. And he really doesn't. Like, I know as a kid watching Doctor Who, I didn't necessarily understand everything that was going on, but I was able to follow the plot enough. And then when I came back to it as an older kid, as a teenager, as an adult, I could then pick up on plot points I didn't realise previously. And I do wonder about the rewatchability of this era of the show, with Chris Chibnall explaining everything. Now, on the other side of that, I feel the plots have been more easy to follow and better constructed sometimes than in the Moffat era. The Moffat era was a lot more creative, especially with non-linear storytelling, but it swings and roundabouts. If you're going to explain a plot to the level that Chris Chibnall explains it, it's going to be easy to follow. Whether that's a good thing or not is up to you. I feel like the prison setting was underused. It's kind of like the Doctor was locked up in there at the end of last series. That was a cliffhanger. It was a big moment. I'm not too annoyed that someone didn't say the name Shada. I'm not too annoyed about that. But just, it's there to serve the function to make the companions be alone for 10 months. But it's not there to serve any other function. And we find out the Doctor spent 19 years there ruminating on who she is, rather than coming to any conclusion based on the Timeless Children. Now, we could say that the Doctor needs her companions in order to process this information. And it's true, in a way, that the Doctor is always defined by their companions. But it just kind of feels like the conversation we have with Ryan, which is brilliantly acted by Jodie and Tosin, it's kind of a rerun of the conversation that the Doctor had with herself in The Matrix, you know? Yeah, it's a bit frustrating, but at least it's well performed, and I really like the actors. Like I said, Bradley Walsh didn't really get much to do, sadly, but Tosin Cole, Amanda Gill knocked it out of the park for me, as far as I'm concerned. They did really well. No complaints with their performances. I just feel like the pudding is a bit over-egged. And the other problem, I think, is Chris Chibnall writes his specials like they're just another episode of the show. And we did have the spectacle of the Daleks this episode, don't get me wrong, and like I already said, I love those shots. But there's not the massive feeling behind it that we got with Russell's Christmas specials or Stephen Moffat's Christmas specials. It just feels like another episode. It's kind of like the difference between Star Trek First Contact and Star Trek Insurrection, which Insurrection feels like a 2-part Next Generation episode, which is great, but we are in a movie theatre there, and we kind of expect the same movie tone from these specials, if you like. But you know, it's still good. I still enjoyed it. It's still a 7 out of 10 as far as I'm concerned. But there were just areas I found lacking, and I find that lacking frustrating. And I find it frustrating because I don't think Chris Chibnall's a bad writer, but I think he needs a co-writer to bring out the best in him and to curtail the worst, and to curtail that tendency to over-explain, to sort of say to him, it's okay, Chris, the audience are going to get this, or they'll watch the scene a second time because we live in the video on demand age. It's not necessary to spell absolutely everything out. It's okay to leave things up to the imagination or up to the processing power of the viewer. Now, I do want to mention as well, because it kind of took me aback, I get the power of Harry Potter, but do we need to quote J.K. Rowling in the year 2021? I don't think so. I get that it's an instantly recognizable line, that people will get it, but I wonder if there might have been a better way to do that. And for me, my first thought about it is, why not quote a Target novelization? Why not quote the Dalek invasion of Earth? Through the ruin of a city stalked a ruin of a man, and then cut away. That's a wonderful metatextual thing, especially after the metatextuality we had in The Timeless Children. That would have been great, but it's a pretty minor thing for me, but I can see why it would upset other people. And yet, my biggest disappointment, my really biggest disappointment, is I don't have another episode to watch next week. Despite my misgivings about this episode, overall I enjoyed it, and I just want to go straight into the next story with the Doctor and Yaz, and whoever the hell John Bishop is playing, frankly. Yeah, there's still more I want to see. And I have faith that over the next 2 series, and I'm sure we're getting another 2 series out of Jodie and Chris, I have faith that an overall story will be told in a satisfying way. Perhaps overtold? But you just have to find the enjoyment where you can, in my opinion. And that's all there is to it. I'd also like to say thank you to everyone who enjoyed my theory video. Obviously it was wrong. Graham is not a timeless Doctor. And look, I always knew there would be problems with that, and it probably wouldn't come true. As my friends Scott and Anson pointed out, it's kind of a death of personality for Graham, you know, and that ending is really sweet. I like to think that Grace isn't a hallucination. I like to think that's a Solitract, because especially with the blinding white light, it really easily could be. It's, I think, a fitting ending for them both, and this is one of the few times this era where I actually got a bit of a lump in my throat with some of the conversations, you know, with Ryan talking about his time with the Doctor and deciding to leave, and with Yaz and Jack talking. And I think that has set up a really interesting dynamic for Series 13, which I hope it pulls off, in that Yaz has had her trust in the Doctor shaken, and it's not resolved at the end of this episode. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. Also great to see Nick Pegg back in a Dalek casing after after a controversial Doctor Who magazine article. Good to have you back, Nick. I'm very glad to see you in the credits there. But yeah, look, overall, I enjoyed it. Tomorrow I will be recording Jodie into Terror with the rest of the Flight Through Entirety crew. So do tune in for that at jodieintoterror.com. And at the end of this month, end of January, beginning of February, Say Something Nice will return to this channel as well. So like I say, my Graham theory was wrong. I really regret in that video not saying, but that's just a Graham theory. But, you know, no regrets coming into this year. I think it's really important. I do apologise that I've had to keep readjusting my mask, but I'm trying to keep my nose covered. I am heading into the gym to get on the cardio, and I will make sure to wash my hands. And look, everyone out there, just stay safe. Wear your mask, wash your hands, distance as much as humanly possible. Just keep yourself safe. We do have a vaccine on the way for this situation, for this virus. And hopefully this year will be brighter than last. Thank you all for watching me, and thank you for watching Doctor Who as well. And I'll see you in the next video.